The Brandon Peters Show may contain explicit language and detailed plot points. For more information on the show, stay tuned to the end of the episode. And now, here's Brandon.
Welcome back to Old Space Show. I am Brandon, and this is my companion, Steven.
Greetings.
This series of Old Space Show follows the intergalactic swashbuckling escape antics of Rouge Blake and his ruffian crew in the first season of Blake 7, which we actually have 7 of them now. Today, we are discussing the 5th episode, The Web.
And in the web, when an unexplainable gravitational pull traps the Liberator in an enveloping gossamer fungus near an unexplored planet, the legend of Callie's people, the Lost, becomes a reality. To break free from their web, Blake is asked to wipe out an entire species.
So it's directed by Michael E. Bryant. The Michael E. Bryant of Colony in Space, The Sea Devils, The Green Death, Death to the Daleks, Revenge of the Cybermen, and Robots of Death.
Mm-hmm.
Always somebody from Who making this.
That's right. And a favorite director of mine from Doctor Who. And he
Easy
also
to see
directed,
why, yeah.
and he also directed this episode. We'll get into stuff about the web. Oh boy!
Right. As always, we credit Terry Nation and praise Chris Boucher.
Yep.
Starring Gareth Thomas, Sally Nivette, Paul Darrow, Jan Chappell, Michael Keating, David Jackson, Richard Beale, Anya Marson, Deep Roy, and the voice of Peter Tuddenham as Zen. So,
yes. Also, before, I mean, there are, speaking of Doctor Who people, there are Doctor Who people in this. Richard Beale was in a couple different episodes. He's in the Gunfighters way back when, and Deep Roy, of course, has been in many things and was recently in, at this point, Talons of Wing Chiang. Miles Fothergill, you might not recognize facially from Doctor Who, but just prior to this, in an episode directed by Michael E. Bryant, that being The Robots of Death, he played SV7, the robot, the main villain robot. And you will recognize that voice, that very calm, assuring voice with a hint of evil behind it in this episode. The second I heard him saying, "Oh, that's him, that's SV7," I recognize that voice.
Oh, perfect, yeah. Do you think they're all like hanging out like, hey, what are you doing next week? Oh, I'm going over to Blake 7. You want to come over to Blake 7? Yeah.
Oh, in those days, in the days
pub.
before internet, and like directors had their little companies of actors who they knew and they could rely on, and in a quick turnaround television situation, that's kind of what you need and what you want when you're sort of filling your cast list with reliable people who what they bring to the table. And Michael E. Bryant is not above that. I know Douglas Camfield, who directed several Doctor Who episodes, had a little cadre of actors and stuff who he would do the use in and out, and I think Pennant Roberts as well, who directed the last episode. Yeah, so it goes around in British TV at the time.
Yeah, and it's something like, we see that in films a lot of times with directors and people. Like, I'm a big John Carpenter fan, and I always like to call a lot of his cast people the John Carpenter players.
Yep.
But, you take them film to film. But on TV, it's a lot harder, but it can happen. Mm-hmm. And the way the British television functions is a lot different than the United States, too, that they were able to do stuff. And there's a lot, they could deal in the back room and be like, oh, no, he's on this. Like, oh, we cast him. Why? I ran into him in the hall.
Yeah. Yeah, I worked with that guy. He's good. Let's get him. Sure.
Hey, he bought me 2 pints. We're good.
Yep. And this is back when casting directors weren't really that much of a thing, when directors did most of their own casting. So they weren't going to outside agencies. They were literally going to, I just worked with this person 6 months ago. They were good. Or, I gave them a small role in this. Maybe I'll do them a favor and have them have a bigger role and on screen for this one. And, that's sort of how the business sort of worked.
Yeah. It's fascinating to me, like just looking at all that. And I was just today talking about at my work. I was talking about telling people about how I love just talking about the setup and strike down of sets in the BBC studios and stuff. Like, how many layers of paint are on those floors? Like, how many feet up? How many feet up are those raised than when they first got built?
It's amazing. There's a DVD extra on the Doctor Who DVD of Carnival of Monsters, I think. So it made its way onto the season 10 Blu-ray set as well, which is from 1972. And there's this guy who basically goes in and say, let's have a look at 24 hours at BBC Television Centre. And the amount of turnover that happens on the sets, on everywhere. It's a factory. It's just a television factory. They paint the floors, they do the sets, they let it dry overnight, they come in, they shoot the things, and then at the end of the night, we shot all the scenes in this set, and it's gone. And some of the bits of pieces of set they keep for future use potentially, but like as you say, the floors completely repainted. They're not like chipped off. They're painted over. There is that play. And when you watch that, you realize why so much television from the early days was lost, because they were just basically just churning new stuff out, and it's a fascinating era of
so many
television.
oversights. Like I've read like letters from like Barry Letts to people about the like drapery stuff for like background from behind windows when they shoot inside, and be like, these were all cracked. Who pays attention to these? Like, barely, we had to change our camera angles and all this. Like, well, we actually don't have a process, sir. We might come up with one now.
We moved the scenery in, and we moved it out, and it got dinged, and we did our best, and that's how it worked.
Yeah, we probably shouldn't roll these up. Yeah, no, you're right. It's amazing. And they treated it like an office job, too. Like 9 to 5. There you go. Lights out. Done. Yeah.
Unit job.
Take your lunch.
Look at us rush to discuss the web here on this podcast tonight.
They must come to us. They must. That's how we're gonna get in with the web. With Callie, immediately up to no good on the ship.
Immediately, the telepath on the team is taken over by someone from her mind.
What a telepath we got here.
Before we even really learn about her, it's like, guess what? She's taken over. I like that. And I like that Villa comes in, hey, Kelly, what do you think of the outfit? It's like everyone finds the costume department on the Liberator to show everyone else off their costume. Oh, fun.
It's from the fall line. Yeah, so she's taken over some. We get like it's like a base workshop station where these two people are asleep, and then there's this little guy in a tank, like a shrunken person, which is Deep Roy, right?
No. Deep Roy is the head Decima. The person in
okay.
In the, I think that's, I don't think that's Richard Beale. Because they didn't look like Richard Beale. It might have been. Michael E. Bryant used a similar technique in Colony in Space, his first Doctor Who story, where he had this sort of like miniature creature at the heart of the underground city in Colony in Space, where it's just a guy's head being stuck through a wall, and then there's a little model body underneath. It looked ridiculous in 1971 when he did it in Colony in Space. I'm here to tell you, it looks ridiculous in 1978 when he did it in Blake 7. It's an odd thing. It's very weird. It's a weird look. I don't think that has aged very well at all.
Okay, yeah, because I was like, I figured, I'm like, is that where he's at? It didn't sound like him, but I was like,
no, Deep Roy is
because he comes back in Blake 7, right? He's in another. Deep
Roy appears on screen in season 2 in Gambit.
Gambit, Gambit
as the Clute. So that's Deep Roy. So no, I think it was Simon who was Richard Beale, but for some reason it didn't look like Richard Beale to me, because I know what he looks like from playing Bat Masterson in the Gunfighters, but I guess that was him. I just didn't recognize him.
Gotcha. Yeah. So there's that sort of creepiness going on.
Yeah,
and taking over people of the ship. there's a
first Callie and then Jenna with her weird stare. Basically, she's looked at the script for this week and just goes,
put the lines down there.
Yeah,
and I'll read them. But yeah, I also have that that Michael E. Bryant has a Callie cam during this, where like kind of put in position of her mind control. It feels like you definitely feel somebody with a sense of visions directing this episode compared to some of the more traditional stuff in the previous episodes.
I agree. I mean, he is a great visionary director. Apart from the ill choice on the on representing the sort of the brain creature on the planet, and other aspects that I'm sure we'll get into. There is some sort of cinematic use there. There's a lot of dissolves too. He sort of like dissolves in between scenes and stuff. As you say, like they must come to us, and sort of like slow dissolves on sort of parts of the building and stuff. I thought that was really well done. I thought it was very artistically done.
Yeah, I definitely, I felt something, watching it. He gets a good a mood in this episode too. I really like. Maybe that's maybe it's because there's a lot of film sequences that show up in here too, and those definitely, as I mentioned before, I tend to love it when the contrast in BBC and ITV television shows between like the video and film always gets me. I'm always like, oh, this is neat. When it goes to film, things get serious and creepy looking for no reason. But just kind of a thing. I did find it funny. There was was it Zen says, like, navigation computers have changed to theoretical projection. Say we look over here. Maybe. Well,
yeah.
I don't know if it was intentional humor, but I gotta cry.
Yeah.
There should be a planet here, but we'll keep going.
Yeah, computers develop, basically in the land of maybes. Like, it could be. Let's just be a little less, a little more vague when it comes to being a computer. Yeah. That's hilarious.
And the also some unintentional humor too. When they figure out Callie's possessed by something, Jenna just goes over and like shakes her head and it's like, whoever you are, it's over. And she goes, thank you, Jenna, and that's it.
That was it. There we go. Fixed it. Well done.
Yeah. It was just, oh man, it was kind of funny there. But they have to go down below this thing that keeps calling them with the web the web planet. But
yeah, we'll call it the web planet. Why not?
The Liberator gets stuck in a space web and they have to go down. And there's a part Avon saves Blake some point here, and he also mentions when Blake's headed down to the planet and stuff, that Avon deviously says there will come a time where he won't be making those decisions, which eerie foreshadowing.
I know.
If you know anything about Blake 7, eerie foreshadowing.
There are some great bits in Avon's character. I think it's this one. I don't take notes for these, so I watched all three at the same time. So if this is for last week's episode, apologies. If it's for next week's episode, apologies. But I think I'm pretty sure it's from this one, where Avon, as you say, saves Blake because there's like some explosive device being put on there, and he sort of warns about it and pulls him away and stuff. And then later on, when they have to fly through like a very specific point of the web or something, and Avon goes we have barely any room. It'll be really tough to do that. And they go, and Blake goes, "Then you better get it right." And Avon just sort of looks up, and as Blake walks off, he goes, "Let's go." He respected his authority and his forthrightness to do it right. To think, okay, you've just challenged me. Well, I'll get it right then. There's an interesting relationship where Avon is very much, he doesn't want to be second fiddle to Blake. He feels that Blake has just sort of inherited the leadership without really, having been taken for a vote or anything like that. And yet he respected that authority and his decision making in that moment, and I thought that was a really good Avon moment.
Yeah, it's a nice touch, definitely actor wise, student wise, because it's probably a lot on Paul Darrow how he plays that scene. It
is, and I mean, Avon becomes one of everyone's favorite characters on the show for obvious reasons. He's amazing because he's allowed to be that sort of anti-hero. But it wouldn't work if he didn't have Blake to sort of push against, to sort of being that forthright, straightforward kind of Robin Hood figure where he's not boring, but he's predictable and reliable, and thus Avon can be a contrast to that because you see what the contrast right next to him, and it's because both of them work very well together. I think because they're very much opposites.
Yeah, it's kind of something that goes, well, not to go too far down the road, but that becomes a missing element. But yeah, so yeah, there's this web, and they can't get through it because every time they destroy the web, it knits itself up again, and then they go down to the planet. There are these creatures that are called decimas that they're look like a white muddy leaves covered thing, and they speak Jawa like.
They're weird language. I mean, they're an alien race. Good for them, but like they're a really annoying sounding race with their ways. And then they sort of look. There's one moment on location when they sort of look up, and he's like, "It's crying and stuff." And it's like it's. I laughed. I hate to admit it. I laughed at this supposedly poignant moment because it was just it's kind of hitting me over the head. These poor creatures are being downtrodden by this strange bubble on the planet.
We'll get to it in a little bit, but there's probably not by design, but almost like nightmare-inducing horrific moment from these things later on, for me at least. But their back spine, when I gotta look at it, I almost get almost feels Zygon-like, looking like a white Zygon from the back.
A little bit. A little bit.
Because they kind of got that star-looking shape to them. But, but Blake gets grazed on the hand by a spear with blood.
Yeah.
Blood. Uh-oh. Hope the kids aren't watching.
Yeah, he sort of reacts to it like, oh, that's mildly inconvenient. This massive gash on his hand. Like, he just sort of goes, like, he doesn't react with pain that much. And then it gets healed later on in this amazing sort of like...
Fungicide.
This fungicide, like this little thing that you would, make a base of kombucha with, gets put on his hand, and like within minutes it's healed. Like, it's dead. And she just scrapes it off on the floor. So it's just like...
Only for small wounds.
Yep.
Decapitation will not heal. But yeah, the people that heal him are Novara and Gila, and they kill a Decima, and they made the web. They're the people that were in this base with the little aquarium guy. That so we go in and we learned more from them that they are manufactured life forms, and they manufactured the decimas, so it's manufactured life forms manufacturing life forms. Yeah. Basically, which we're all manufactured somehow.
Man,
I think that's the deep level of like, man, some way. Machines manufacture machines, man, but who manufactured machines? We did, so who manufactured us?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the... That's the conversation going around in the Blake Seven writers' room. But yeah, just maybe the deep. They have Deep Roy. We have Deep Thoughts. But meanwhile, in the space, though, the Federation's found them stuck in the web.
Right,
they're coming. And we get a name for the little aquarium guy. He's Saimon, the controller.
Yep.
He keeps possessing people. And he's all 6 members of this lost council people in one mind, and he controls Novara and Gila aren't really people themselves. He's fully controlling them. Am I getting that right? What I understand?
I think so. It's a little bit. There's a lot of exposition in this episode where it's just people talking to each other essentially to explain what's going on. So
science fiction.
Science fiction, yeah. Science exposition, very much a lot of that in this one.
Yeah. So he's like, we have to kill the Decimas, that's what we do. And Blake's like, nope, I'm not into that. Like, because there's power cells that there's a negotiation. In the background, there's like, they want these power cells. I actually thought the power cells were down at one point in the episode already. They weren't. because they were talking about him. Okay, and I was like, oh wait, nope, they didn't. People come down and because I think Avon comes. Does Avon come down with the power cells?
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah, he comes down with the power cells. They try to negotiate stuff. And he like hides them in the grass, and he's like, "Oh, you can't have them." And they're like, "Well, tough shit or whatever." And then they're like, "Okay," and he's like, "Fine, here they are."
Yeah, they are. Fine. You got me. All right.
It's like a whole 30 seconds.
It's exactly. There's not a lot of cat and mouse going on there, is there?
No, I was like, "Oh, he's gonna play hardball." Nope. Blake caves really instantly, but
yeah.
So then the Decimas end up overtaking. They let him to overtake the base, and this is what I'm talking about. This is this creepy, unsettling chaos because
it really is.
There's remains of the bodies of Navarra and Gila that
right.
are like skulls with like purple blood coming off of them.
It's so gruesome.
And I don't think there's. I can't tell. I can't remember. Is there score during this? Because I think it's scoreless.
Oh no! It's just the constant noise of the Decimas yelling and screaming,
smashing stuff,
and they just come in and just trash the place, and it goes on for like 2.5, 3 minutes.
It's creepy.
It's
like,
an epic amount of.
If you know what they sound like, it's actually because it's irritating. But they look weird. It's creepy, and if you had this on like a loop and like sat someone in a chair.
It's chaos, man.
Or like fed him like a hit of acid and made him they would not be the same person after watching that.
Yeah.
Like, oh my gosh. Like it is just it's nightmare fuel. Like that weird enough. It's just because it's weird. There's no scenes to cut in. It's just them. You'd think they'd have like, Roj like watching through a window being like, this is what manufacturers do. When the son kills the father or some BS like that. You think there'd be some line or something? Nope. Just watching them chaos.
Come in. It's actually interesting because speaking of Robots of Death, which was Michael Lee Bryant's previous production, I think probably pretty close to this,
with Chris Boucher
as well written. And there's I think there's a similar scene because in this episode there's like the window and you sort of see the silhouette of one of the Decimas against the window sort of thing before they all break in. It very much reminded me of a scene in Robots of Death where there's one of the robots who's basically against the wall and you see the silhouette as Chief Mover Poole sort of has a breakdown because he's got like robophobia and stuff. Very similar visual imagery from the same director. Probably not a mistake on that one, I think. Or a coincidence, I should say.
Right. Yeah. Robots of Death, which they had Pamela Salem, who was in a couple episodes ago.
Yeah.
Crazy enough. Mm-hmm. That's a...
Yeah, there's a lot of crossover between the Robots of Death and Blake 7 later on in Big Finish Audio, I think too, which oddly enough. So yeah, there's they seem to be coming from the same gene pool, the same productive gene pool, both in directors and actors, and inspiration perhaps too.
It's fascinating. Well, wait, and Brian Croucher later joins Blake 7.
Of course, he does too. Yeah, absolutely.
It all comes back to Robots of Death.
Robots of Death.
Oh, so good.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's a line at the end, like where we end where I'll tell you the fact of life, change is inevitable. And whereas we fight, Avon. Got some
boom, 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 boom. There we go. Yeah. What did we learn? I don't know. That's why these two episodes feel like I mentioned in the last episode, it just sort of felt like Blake 7 was already kind of treading water, and it almost felt like this is like, is this what Blake 7 wants to do? Like, they're running from another faceless Federation patrol. We don't even see them. We don't even see the ships really. We don't even see. Well, obviously, we don't see the people in them. They're just like random unseen threat, and there's no real oomph to it, and they're just basically a reason why they have to get out of the web. It's basically the countdown to doom, and I feel like this episode and the one previous are like this weird 2 episode arc where the series feels kind of rudderless and out of ideas, but thankfully that is all about to change next week.
Right. No, exactly. Like last week at least had, we picked up Callie. Yeah. This one had more to it than last week, but...
Technically it did.
This could have been a good generic episode if it maybe had like couple more weeks of planning and figuring out what they had. And I don't know what they were trying to show here, but this, definitely feels in an American show at this time when you had like 25 episodes in a season, this would be fine. But this is the, British model of really distinct serialized storytelling that's like, I mean, not that they don't have filler episodes, but we're just kicking off, and it's like, this, at this point, we're here, and it's like, is this what the show's gonna be? Just the Incredible Hulk going from town to town,
random adventures in space. Exactly.
Yeah.
There's not much direction at this point, even early on.
Yeah, it set itself up to be something else, and now we're back to you're either Star Trek exploring space or you're escaping, running away from something in space, and so it's very, very iffy. Like you could be like, I'm checked out. This show's gonna be this, okay? Which gotta hold on. Yeah. But I do. Well, a side note I would have mentioned too. I seem to have this love and affinity for winter-based science fiction space opera clothing. I can't tell you why, but I'm always like, I'd love to have that jacket. Like Empire Strikes Back, Wrath of Khan, even Space 1999 had like winter versions, coat versions of their outfits that they would go to colder planets on. And I'm just always like it.
I was thinking that I would wear that hoodie. I would wear the Blake 7 hoodie out and about on a nice, cool, crisp fall day because that looks kind of cozy and warm. Yeah. And they all sort of have them, which is kind of cool.
Right. Yeah. And because people will be like, there's the drool house, like Princess Leia in the Jabba's palace outfit. Ooh, I'm like, Hoth Leia is my favorite Leia look.
Yeah.
I don't know why.
Yeah, it's a good look. It's a good look.
Whatever.
Yeah.
Like, I don't. So that's where I stand, and I like the Rebel Alliance uniforms when they're puffy and the colder. Yeah, and the when Wrath of Khan where they go off and they're wearing the puffy coat versions of the Starfleet uniforms.
Right? Yeah.
Those, I like those are cool too. I don't know what it is. Winter sci-fi and me.
Yeah, no, I understand it because there's more to work with when it comes to designing costumes that can be worn in winter that are, you can both be cosplaying and be practical for a cold Canadian winter for me.
Yep, that's why I wear in the winter, like I wear a Tom Baker coat and it's the red one. And it's very comfy. In all winter, and I get a lot of compliments on it. They're like, that's a really nice coat. I'm like, if you knew where it was from, you would probably think less of it, but thank you. Not that it's not cool, but I'm like, you'd probably be like, oh, that's weird, but it works out in public regularly, so there you go. But yeah, that's it for this one. So Steven, set our course again for Earth, but before we give it to the Federation, where can people keep up with you? Share your information.
Okay, you can find me on Twitter at Lagopolis and on Radio Free Scaro and Lazy Doctor Who and The Memory Cheats.
All right, hashtag Fungicide, and I'm on Twitter and Instagram at BrandonPorkyUHD. Written work at WhySoBlue.com. There is more for the Brandon Peters Show. I believe we'll be back. It'll be back Monday next week with the commentary for Air Force One that was recorded in July on Out Now with Aaron and Abe. As I'm running through some commentary. Film commentary episodes from that right now while I'm taking a little bit of a break. But you get new old space show episodes every week. So come back for Steven and I next week. But from Old Space.
If it takes all my life, I will destroy you, Blake. I will destroy you. I will destroy you.
Thank you for listening. The Brandon Peters Show is a Creative Zombie Studios production. Produced by Brad Shoemaker and Brandon Peters. Written and edited by Brandon Peters. Announcer vocals by Jessica Alsman. Theme song by Metavari. Web design and show art by Brad Shoemaker with Brandon Peters. All music and clips featured in the episode are property of their respective studios, and no infringement is intended. Additional information on this and other episodes at BrandonPetersShow.com. For any inquiries, press opportunities, or sponsorship, contact mail at BrandonPetersShow.com. The show is available on Apple Music, Spotify, or anywhere podcasts are found.